I was one of those kids that, not to toot my own horn, but I was kind of a popular kid. You know, I had lots of friends. Always had like a little trail of kids that would always follow me around. It was always a fun childhood, always out running around all over the city. Times you could do that kind of stuff where you could just run around in the city without having to be worried about getting picked up in a car or something like that. When I was raised with my grandparents, they were old, so when I would come home from school, things like that, they weren't, maybe not because they weren't interested in my education, but maybe they were at an age where they weren't really, they couldn't be interested. They had health issues, they had to take care of home. I had two cousins that lived with me too. So when I came home from school, there wasn't anybody that was monitoring me, as far as let me check your homework, what did you learn in school, things like that. I was kind of on my own. And then when I came to school, it was left to the teachers and they did a pretty good job of that. Otherwise, I wouldn't be in this position right now, so. After my grandma died, I went back to live with my mom in Kansas City. And Manhattan is totally different than Kansas City. It's more of an urban environment. And so when I went there, I was looked at as, like a nerdy kid. They said I talked white. And I was like, what? Talk white? What are you talking about? So I had to deal with that. Kids kind of messed with me a little bit about that. And that was a little different. So my popularity went completely out the window. It didn't bother me to a point where it messed with my academics or anything like that. But it was definitely different. I was in 8th grade, and I didn't want to be in the regular school in Kansas City. I wanted to be somewhere that would kind of test me a little bit more and push me. And a friend said, hey, go to Sumner. And I was like, I don't know what that is. He said, you gotta take a test. You gotta take a special test to get to Sumner. So I tried the test, passed it, they accepted me. And so from 9th grade to I finished, till I graduated, I went to Sumner, and we were looked at differently than other high schools in Kansas City. Like, we did international baccalaureate there, which is a tougher academic standard than even AP. When you took IB at a school, you're like, man, I can do some stuff, because that's like college level type stuff. So I think definitely kids were like, man, we're head and shoulders above regular kids in Kansas City. And then other kids in Kansas City looked at us like snobs and stuff like that. And then we kind of, got together. It brings everybody together, like a sense of community. Like, okay, everybody hates us in Kansas City, so let's just gather together and just, shield ourselves from everybody else. So that's kind of how it was at Sumner. The moment it crystallized that I wanted to be a teacher was probably the end of my senior year with Mr. Smith. He stayed on me and kept me on top of things about getting into college and keeping me motivated. And Mr. Smith especially really stressed just preparation, because they say everything that we're doing here is going to prepare you for college. If you can't do it here, are you going to be able to do it at, K-State? So I'll never forget, like, graduation when we were walking at the cap and gown ceremony, and all the teachers were in the cap and gown, and we were just walking with everyone, and all the teachers were lined up, just had a look of approval on, like a look of like, okay, you guys made it, and he just looked happy, he looked like, you did it at 4 years, and I was like, man, that pretty much crystallized it for me. I said, yeah, this is what I'm gonna go into. The pressure I feel is pretty much put on myself because I'm here, I'm a self-driven person. Like, there's no one from the outside really saying you have to do it. It's all from me. I want to succeed. I want to be the first person in my family to do this. And I'm so far into it, I'm so deep into it, like, for me to back out of it now would be a complete failure. So that's the pressure I feel, is just to be the first one. When I went to college, I knew that I was the first one to go. So I knew I wanted to finish. I knew that I had these lofty goals to meet. Not just to go to college, not just to graduate. I want to get a master's, I want to get a doctorate at some point, just to set that bar in my family history. There probably isn't any stereotypes in this day and age, as far as me being a black guy going to college, but as far as being education, I think I'm breaking a lot of stereotypes. I mean, just look at my physical appearance and say, okay, this guy's gonna be a teacher. You're gonna be like, what? You know, you might think he might be going into, you know, sports or something like that. But when you look at me and say, okay, this guy wants to be a teacher, there's a lot of stereotypes. There's not a whole lot of guys that want to be a teacher, from what I understand. There's not a whole lot of black guys that want to be a teacher. So there's that stereotype, I think, that I'm breaking. And I hope that at some point, you know, that doesn't become a stereotype.